Andrew, you mentioned this government shutdown. We're on day 7, and Trump, he really overnight slammed Democrats, blaming them for the shutdown, calling on them to basically reopen the government. He wrote on True Social that Democrats have shut down the United States government right in the midst of one of the most successful economies, including a record stock market that our country has ever had. This has sadly affected so many programs, services, and other elements of society the Americans rely on, and it should not have happened. I'm happy to work with the Democrats on their failed healthcare policies or anything else, but first they must allow our government to reopen. In fact, they should open our government tonight. So how likely is it, do you think, that this will be resolved this week?
Not quite sure. That Truth Social message you just read out was a bit of a walkback for the president. At that same event where he talked about possibly pardoning Ghislaine Maxwell and Diddy, he said that there were negotiations ongoing with the Democrats about extending these healthcare tax credits that have been made the sticking point in these government funding talks. Now, Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer immediately put out a statement that said, no, there are no such talks going on. And it was initially an indicator that the president, who likes to think of himself as the ultimate deal maker, is willing to make a deal. But Republicans in Congress have really been driving the show on this. And from what I understand, the message was quickly communicated to the president: stop it. Stop talking about negotiations. We don't want to negotiate. We want to jam the Democrats with this and make them eat this House-passed funding bill. Now, this goes against the president's instincts. As I said, he's someone who doesn't like conflict, even though he does stoke it regularly. He would rather be seen as the negotiator, the deal maker, the wheeler and dealer, the guy who can get everyone in the room together and get things done for the American people. That was really his pitch for re-election in part. But House Republicans have been driving the train during this week-long shutdown to the point where the president really hasn't been out in front doing a lot of messaging. In fact, during the early days of this crisis, it was Vice President Vance who was sent out to talk with reporters about this. And that actually led to some speculation about the president's health. I don't think it's as dire as some extremely online lefties would like to say, but it is strange that a president who normally likes to be the only one talking isn't doing a lot of talking, and when he does talk, he's pushed to walk it back hours later.
Well, let's get into that, Andrew, because over the weekend there was a text message interview between Donald Trump and CNN's Jake Tapper. It was dubbed highly unusual. We don't really see Trump texting reporters. He does call into news networks every now and then, but Trump, he told Tapper that if Hamas doesn't step down from government, there will be total obliteration of the terrorist organization. He said that Republicans are winning the government shutdown and cutting costs big time. But why did this exchange spark concerns about the president's health?
Because the president doesn't text. He famously despises written communications. He does not use email. During his first term, when he saw government lawyers taking notes at meetings, he, as was documented in reporting informed by his former White House counsel and in the Mueller report, actually, that special counsel report during his first term, complained and said, why are you taking notes? And so the president, as I said, doesn't use email, and he is not really known to be a big texter. He does call reporters. Many reporters have his number, or at least a number he's had for a long time, and call and leave messages, and sometimes he's known to call back. But texting is not something Donald Trump is known for, and I saw this segment on CNN Sunday, and my thought was, how did CNN verify that it was the president on the other end of the texting, sending these sort of monosyllabic responses, as opposed to some staffer? And on one hand, the president does like to use his own phone, but on the other, it was highly unusual. And as I said, there's been a lot of speculation about his health as he's curtailed public appearances in recent weeks.
Andrew, this came on the back of the fact that Madeleine Dean confronted Mike Johnson, where she told the House Speaker that she thought that Trump was unwell, that he was unhinged after the way he had, brought in all the US senior generals for a meeting, for a conference, whatever you want to call it, and the way he spoke to them, what he spoke about, potentially bringing militants onto the streets as war zones or whatever he said. But yeah, she told Speaker Johnson he's unhinged, he's unwell.
And the Speaker did not explicitly deny that and say back to the Congresswoman, no, he's fine, he's fine. What he said was, there are a lot of people on your side who are unwell. And Trump's health, both physical and mental, has been a source of discussion in Washington circles for years, dating back to his first term. There was a video that went viral of him struggling to go down a ramp at the U.S. Military Academy graduation in 2020. And he has often needed or wanted a bit of assistance going up or downstairs. And that, I understand, is because he does not want to fall and be seen falling publicly. That's something, of course, which happened with former President Biden that Trump made a lot of hay out of during the election. Of course, other presidents have fallen going up or down stairs, especially those air stairs coming off of Air Force One, which having used some of those myself, they're a bit bouncy and wobbly and not like the stairs in your house or apartment building. And at that same speech in Quantico, Virginia, he actually had some rare words of praise for former President Obama for his ability to go up and down stairs very quickly. But Donald Trump's health is not a non-issue. After his successor turned predecessor, Mr. Biden, he is the oldest person to ever be sworn in for a second term, and he is notoriously opaque about his health. During his first campaign for the presidency in 2015, 2016, he released a letter from his doctor that was, let's call it, extremely Trumpian in its depiction of his health, to the point where it said that all his test results were positive. Of course, in medicine, positive test results are not a good thing usually. And he later admitted that he wrote it, and the doctor later said that he wrote it. But he has not been transparent about his health, although his physician did respond to a lot of reporter questions about swollen ankles that were shown on the president. Some might call them cankles, at an event where he was sitting down and his lower limbs looked quite bloated. And this memorandum said the president had been diagnosed with chronic venous insufficiency. Now, some doctors have said that this could be a sign of a bigger problem. I'm not a doctor, so I won't speculate. But something else that's gotten a lot of notice is some pretty regularly present bruising on one or both of the president's hands, often inexpertly covered up with makeup. And the president's aides, I talked with Caroline Leavitt, the press secretary, a couple weeks ago about this. She reiterated an explanation that had been put out during the campaign when it was said that the bruising on his hand was an effect of his constant handshaking. Now, he's no longer on the campaign trail. He interacts with far fewer people on a daily basis. But Caroline Leavitt was quite insistent that part of the problem is that people are always coming in and out of the Oval Office, and he shakes hands with all of them. And Leavitt said that women actually exacerbate this problem when shaking his hand because of the long nails that press into his skin. And I won't opine on whether or not I believe that. I'm just reporting that to you because that's what I do. I'm a reporter. I'm not a pundit or opinion type person. But the bruising has been on both hands, not just the right hand with which one shakes hands. And it has led to some speculation that maybe he's getting intravenous infusions. Now, that's something that the White House medical unit is known to do for people when they get tired, including White House staff have described to me how when they're feeling run down, they have occasionally gone down to the medical unit and asked for IV fluids, and they've gotten them and they felt better afterwards. But whether or not this really is from shaking hands or from getting intravenous infusions for any reason, the White House is not saying.
Well, I mean, it is interesting because, Trump is in his late 70s. No one would blame him for getting tired. But of course, he does want to be seen as the complete opposite of Joe Biden. He doesn't want to be seen as old. He doesn't want to be seen as senile. And, he did sit for a cognitive exam in his first term, something that that Joe Biden refused to do. So we've got to give it to him there. But
yes, person, man, woman, camera, TV, if I remember correctly, were the words he had to repeat.
Exactly. Andrew Feinberg, thank you so much for joining the Trump Report today.
Thank you for having me.